Hi, my name's Carol Salter and I'm an author, and I've planned to release chapters of my book Witch on the Warpath at regular intervals. Chapter 1 is already out there and this is chapter 2 that I'm going to be reading today. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a thumbs up if you do. Let's see how we go today. Chapter 2, Out of the Ether. Hope the Watcher was late. "I'll have to pay the blasted hell, Pixie, if I don't get there on time," she wailed, her voice rising up and down as she dipped and weaved in between the tall brick buildings. Her wings moved so fast they resembled exquisite hummingbirds in flight. Flying towards her appointed rendezvous, Hope considered the 2 verbal warnings she'd already received for being late to a birth. Through the cloudy sky she spied her objective, a tall, slender, cylindrical object. "I'm coming! Hold on, wait for me!" she called anxiously. Swooping low, Hope landed like a mother's kiss on the flat metal. Leaning down, she scratched the soles of her delicate bare feet. "I hate working the city round. I know we have to keep watch from a high vantage point, but why lampposts? Why not somewhere natural like trees? If it's not lampposts, it's rubbish bins or it's iron railings." She shivered at the thought of pure iron touching her sensitive skin. Galvanised steel was bad enough. But it wasn't always lampposts or assorted street furniture. In a city the size of London, lampposts were the most utilised. Settling to her task, hands on hips, Hope scanned the ground, her eyes searching the dark in case the parents had arrived early. "Good," she sighed. "And the light is still on, so I'm not late, thank Mother Gaia." Coasting down to the grass, she tugged out a small clump of green blades and took the bundle back up to the top of the lamppost. Fashioning a neat cushion, she sat down, preparing to wait for her newest arrival. The moment she was settled to her satisfaction, the broken lamp flickered below her and the bulb died. Between the instant of light ending and darkness falling is the space where fairies are born. The majority, those born in rural areas, appear beneath quiet, covert hedgerows. In urban locations, a newborn fairy has less opportunity for concealment, so a more robust system was invented to keep them safe. Fairies, woven from the fabric of the air, combined with the essence of light and entwined with magic, don't register on human energy scales. Even if humans squeezed their eyes till they were slitty slits and then stared sideways and looked from the corners, they couldn't see a fairy's birth. To humans, fairy babies appear as tiny particles of dust, like those caught in a beam of sunlight as it streams through a bedroom window on a bright summer's day. Just such a speck appeared now. Flickering into life, it glided as though riding the evening breeze. Round and round the speck fell, pulsing to the rhythm of the magical earth. Hope, watching it dance a ballet to the music of her soul, felt her emotions swell. "Ah, so beautiful," she sighed. As always, the sight never failed to entrance her. The speck expanded to the size of a pearl, settling like a prima ballerina's toes on the pointy tops of the grass blades beneath the rusty lamppost. Certain special humans, staring without blinking till their eyes watered and tears ran down their cheeks, might discern the pearl now it had grown in size. A couple of people with dormant magical genes might spy a cocoon and witness the pulsing of a newly created fairy heart inside. Resting within this particular bubble was a perfect baby girl with chubby fingers and adorable, most edible toes. Her skin so smooth and pure it reflected light. She slept, unaware of the world appearing around her. This baby, soft, cuddly and desirable, was different to humans, thanks to one unique ability. Unfurling down her back, like sunflower petals opening in the summer sun, were the finest, most perfect pair of pink-edged wings. Don't think lace or silk, think dragonfly's wing and spider's silk. Her wings, akin to a merging butterfly, rippled in time to the beating of her innocent heart. Restricted by space, her wings now fully extended behind her, swaddled the infant in her first gossamer blanket. On her head grew the fairest, finest hair imaginable. It resembled ripened thistledown, waiting for a gust of gentle wind to whisk it to the heavens. Her limbs set at gentle rest, and with eyes closed, she slumbered, not yet ready to cross the line into consciousness. A knowing smile teased the edges of her rosebud lips. This baby was safe, because high above her, on a cushion made of grass blades, was Hope, her own personal watcher. Hope loved her job to pieces. She was kind and caring and very mumsy-like. The Hampstead Department of Watchers, to which Hope belonged, kept newborns safe from the moment of their creation, for this was their time of greatest peril. Fairy babies are able to fly short distances from the moment they emerge from their cocoons. However, without a fairy adult nearby, they are at risk from any number of tragic incidents. Commonest are drowning in nearby ponds or becoming stuck, literally, on overhead electricity cables. Their greatest danger comes from nasty, ghoulish things who think nothing of eating unhatched fairies as a delightful entree. No nasty neef demon is going to eat you, my beloved, cooed Hope from her vantage point. Never fear, Hope will keep you safe. Hope shuddered at the thought of a dreaded neef demon ripping its way through from the hellish dark dimensions to enslave her unsuspecting babe. She'd heard of luckless infants being dragged screaming into the darkness where the sun never ever shone. Hope shuddered in revulsion a second time, for she was a creature born of light. She'd rather die in the gaping maw of a giant slime eel than live without light. She sat, gazing down at her latest charge, the unconditional love surging through her, all of it for the unborn infant lying on the grass. The strong emotion brought tears to her eyes. "Another girl, how gorgeous," she murmured. "One day, I hope I get a baby girl. My baby will never have to fear monsters or be terrorised." Hope reflected briefly on the ultimate dangers fairies faced. Iced blood syndrome, IBS. If a fairy listened to a story of being eaten or stolen, the blood in their veins could freeze solid. When a fairy's blood froze, their wings froze too. And if they're airborne at the time, they could fall screaming to their deaths. Needing to be on hand in case of trouble, all watchers received spell immunity to the syndrome. Things had improved since the Rift War. The dark dimensions, responsible for much of the death and mayhem, were now regulated and controlled, almost civilised. Fairies seldom died on fear-frozen wings, or got eaten. And when they did, the authorities, using soothsayers, rescued the victim 99% of the time. Whilst the baby slept, Hope stayed alert and watchful. Her fragile wingtips twitched as she waited the regulation 2 hours for the babe's parents to arrive. When they failed to put in an appearance, Hope started getting nervous. Stretching to her full height of 5 foot 3¼ inches, she turned anxious pirouettes back and forth along the length of the lamp-post cover, peering into the distance. As she spun, her cobwebby hair floated out around her like an Irish sea mist. Hope wondered and worried, fidgeted and trembled, knowing she would need to make a decision soon, yet trying her hardest to delay that moment as long as possible. Fairies always wanted babies. Parents not putting in an appearance was irregular, though not unheard of. Oh my, Hope trilled, the tremor of her concern clearing her tone. I need to keep my sweetness safe from harm. What to do? When will her parents arrive? She paused to think of possible reasons for their tardiness. I bet they've lost their way. Or maybe it's someone who has a lot of important work to do, like a counsellor. That might make them late. She remembered one of her earlier charges. Perhaps they've had an accident on the way here. No, I mustn't think of that, she admonished herself. I know it happens and I hate it. But maybe these parents want a boy rather than a girl. As Hope tried to calm herself, her mind went back to the disastrous cross-species experiment a few years earlier. An unsavoury incident between a female ogre and her fairy charge resulted in the scheme being axed. No nasty ogre is going to eat you, my love, whatever happens, murmured Hope. You are perfect. But why has no relative arrived to claim you? What am I to do? Why is this baby here if there are no parents? She asked herself, noting the dark houses around her despite the early hours, but not picking up on it. Is it possible the humans here have stopped believing in fairies? I remember that one place where the fairy population dwindled so much the council decreed it a fairy-free zone. Hope shivered at the recollection. Unknown to Hope, this was exactly the situation here. No human within a 3-block radius believed in fairies anymore, not even the children. And for a very good reason. As a result, the local fairies had moved on months ago. Fairies hated living in a place where no one believed in them. It was a sad state of affairs which the Fairy Council solved almost too late. They discovered humans didn't need to believe in fairies, though of course that helped tremendously. If humans read about fairies, talked about them, drew them and pretended, fairies would survive. The council supported the publication of fantasy authors, including J.M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, their biggest promoter until his death in 1937. As a consequence, populations of fairy folk expanded in and around bookshops and libraries. This precious bundle of life, who only moments ago plinked into existence, lay gurgling and cooing in her sleep, unconcerned about Hope's predicament. It's so unfair. I can't leave you alone here, little one. You could be in grave danger. Like it or not, Hope knew this babe was already facing her first real struggle for survival. Without your parents, I'll have to choose. Either I place an emergency care order on you, or I set an enchantment. What to do? What to do? She debated out loud. Hope stared down at the sleeping infant, then travelled back and forth along the lamppost cover as she tried to make her decision. An enchantment cannot be broken until a special event occurs in the future. Meanwhile, you, my love, will be untouchable inside your cocoon beneath this lamppost. Snow White had an enchantment placed on her with a poison apple, Sleeping Beauty with a poison spinning wheel, and so on. In the majority of cases, the enchantment is broken by the expected party arriving as foretold. In the cases of Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, it was a handsome prince. My other option is an ECO and transfer to the local orphanage in Mile End. I know my boss prefers us to take unclaimed babies there. Hope glanced down again at the pink cocoon. It isn't the worst place for a fairy to grow up in, and the children seem clean and well nourished. A second new orphanage had been built in Mile End because the council discovered the humans living there had a higher than average positive belief quota. Its residents held unrealistic hopes and impossible dreams, believing in fate, love and destiny. They hailed the luck of the Irish, black cats and horseshoes, utilising these in their love of gaming, bingo, horse racing and the lottery. Every child I've watched over has grown up with loving fairy parents. I've not lost one infant to the neath demons of the dark dimension. Hope smiled as she considered her unbroken success record. And I'm not going to lose one now, she continued defiantly, thus making the first of several mistakes. I'm not sending anyone else to the orphanage ever again. I heard about the nasty mean witch stealing children from there. How awful. Goodness knows what she did with them. Hope shuddered at the thought, then floated down onto the grass. She stood alone in the dark, casting the final element of an enchantment over the cocoon nestled on the grass. She watched the air shimmer pink as she set the conditions. Your parents will find you, little one, and they will love you forever. And when that happens, this cocoon will dissolve and you will be released into your parents' loving arms. Unfortunately, Hope didn't specify a time period in her casting, only that the moment would occur at some point in the future. When was anyone's guess. Until then, this infant fairy would stay safe in her ball of pink energy. Nothing and no one in all the 6 dimensions will be able to remove you from your cocoon until the time is right. The enchantment set to her satisfaction, Hope finished her shift and went home. The tiny baby fairy stayed where she lay on the damp patch of green grass under the paint-peeling lamppost. Leaving the baby's cocoon in the precise place it materialised turned out to be Hope's second mistake. 4 days later, when she returned to her twice-weekly check of her charge, Hope found no lamppost, no green grass, and no slumbering fairy babe. Please tune in again for the next episode of Witch on the Warpath. Thank you for listening.